unsuspected spam call. Forget about it.
And if somebody can just organize the instructions in the right way, then they can program this little... Welcome to the Huberman Lab podcast, where we discuss science and science-based tools for everyday life. I'm Andrew Huberman, and I'm a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine. This podcast is separate from my teaching and research role. Really good at something, CPGs are controlling a lot of that behavior. And that's true. Like to try Athletic Greens, you can go to athleticgreens.com/waking up as a meditation app that includes hundreds of waking up as a SDR and non. I also love that the Waking Up app has lots of different types of yoga nidra sessions. If you'd like to, so that means athletic physical movements of the body that extend beyond the hands, like just playing the piano, or the fingers, like playing the bowl, because sometimes I only have few minutes to meditate, other times I have longer to meditate, and indeed I love the fact that I can explore different types of meditations to bring about different levels of understanding about consciousness, but also to place my brain and body into lots of different kinds of states depending on which meditation I do. I also love that the Waking Up app has lots of different types of yoga nidra sessions. Those of you who don't know, yoga nidra is the process of lying very still but keeping an active mind. It's very different than most meditations. And there's excellent scientific data to show that yoga nidra and something similar to it, called non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR, can greatly restore levels of cognitive and physical energy, even with just a short 10-minute session. If you'd like to try the Waking Up app, you can go to wakingup.com/Huberman and access a free 30-day trial. Again, that's wakingup.com/Huberman to access a free 30-day trial. This month on the Huberman Lab podcast, we're talking all about physical performance. That means athletic performance, recreational exercise, weightlifting, running, swimming, yoga, skills, and skill learning. Today, we're going to talk about and focus on skill learning. We are going to focus on how to learn skills more quickly, in particular motor skills. This will also translate to things like musical skills and playing instruments, but we're mainly going to focus on physical movements of the body that extend beyond the hands, like just playing the piano, or the fingers, like playing the guitar. But everything we're going to talk about will also serve the formation and the consolidation and the performance of other types of skills. So if you're interested in how to perform better, whether or not it's dance or yoga, or even something that's just very repetitive like running or swimming, this podcast episode is for you. We're going to go deep into the science of skill learning, and we are going to talk about very specific protocols that the science points to and has verified allow you to learn more quickly, to embed that learning so that you remember it, and to be able to build up skills more quickly than you would otherwise. We are also going to touch on a few things that I get asked about a lot, but fortunately recently I've had the time to go deep into the literature, extract the data for you, and that's mental visualization. How does visualizing a particular skill or practice serve the learning and or the consolidation of that practice? Turns out there are some absolutely striking protocols that one can use. Striking meaning they allow you to learn faster, and they allow you to remember how to do things more quickly and better than if you were not doing this mental rehearsal. But the pattern of mental rehearsal, and when you do that mental rehearsal, turns out to be vitally important. So I'm excited for today's episode. We're going to share a lot of information with you, and there are going to be a lot of very simple takeaways. So let's get started. Before we get into the topic of skill learning and tools for accelerating skill learning, I want to briefly revisit the topic of temperature, which was covered in the last episode and just highlight a few things and clear up some misunderstandings. So last episode talked about these incredible data from my colleague Craig Heller's lab at Stanford, he's in the Department of Biology, showing that cooling the palms in particular ways and at particular times can allow athletes or just recreational exercisers to do more pull-ups, dips, bench presses per unit time, to run further, to cycle further, and to feel better doing it. Really are incredible data that are anchored in the biology of the vascular system, the blood supply, and how it's involved in cooling us. Many of you, dozens of you in fact, said, wait a second, you gave us a protocol in this episode which says that we should cool our palms periodically throughout exercise in order to be able to do more work. But on the episode before that, on growth hormone and thyroid hormone, you said that heating up the body is good for release of growth hormone. And I just want to clarify that both things are true. These are two separate protocols. You should always warm up before you exercise. That warm up will not increase your body temperature or the muscle temperature to the point where it's going to diminish your work capacity, that it's going to harm your performance. The cooling of the palms, which is really just a route to cool your core in an efficient way, most efficient, is about improving performance. Heating up the body with exercise and focusing on heat increases or using sauna for heat increases is geared toward growth hormone release, which is a separate matter. So you can do both of these protocols, but you would want to do them at separate times. So just to make this very concrete before I move on to today's topic, if you're interested in doing more work, being able to do more sets and reps per unit time and feel better doing it, or to run further, or to cycle further, then cooling the palms periodically, as I described in the previous episode, is going to be the way to go. If you're interested in getting growth hormone release, well then hot sauna, and I offered some other tools if you don't have a sauna in the episode on growth hormone and thyroid hormone, is going to be the way to go. Okay, so those are separate protocols. You can include them in your fitness regime and your training regime, but you do want to do them at separate times. And as a last point about this, I also mentioned that caffeine can either help or hinder performance depending on whether or not you're caffeine adapted, because of the ways that caffeine impacts body temperature and all sorts of things like vasodilation and constriction. It's very simple. If you enjoy caffeine before your workouts and you're accustomed to caffeine, meaning you drink it 3 or 5 times or more a week, 100 to 300 milligrams is the typical daily dose of caffeine. Some of you are ingesting more, some less. If you do that regularly, well then it's going to be just fine to ingest caffeine before you train. It's not going to impact your body temperature and your vasodilation or constriction in ways that will hinder you. However, if you're not a regular caffeine user and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to drink a cup of coffee and get this huge performance enhancing effect, well, that's not going to happen. Chances are it's going to lead to increases in body temperature and changes in the way that blood flow is happening in your body, and in particular on these palmar surfaces and in your face, that is going to likely diminish performance. So if you enjoy caffeine and you're accustomed to it, so-called caffeine adapted, enjoy it before your training. If you do not regularly use caffeine, then you probably do not want to view caffeine as a performance enhancing tool. And while we're on the topic of tools, and because this is a month on athletic performance and exercise and physical skill learning, I want to offer an additional tool that I've certainly found useful, which is how to relieve the so-called side stitch or side cramp when running or swimming. This actually relates to respiration and to the nervous system, and it is not a cramp. If you've ever been out running and you felt like you had a pain on your side, that pain could be any number of things, but that what feels like cramping of your side is actually due to what's called collateralization of the phrenic nerve, which is a lot harder to say than a side cramp or a side stitch. But here's the situation. You have a set of nerves, which is called the phrenic nerve, P-H-R-E-N-I-C, the phrenic nerve, which extends down from your brainstem, essentially, this region, to your diaphragm to control your breathing. It has a collateral, meaning it has a branch, just like a branch on a tree, that innervates your liver. And if you are not breathing deeply enough, what can happen is you can get what's called sometimes a reference pain. Reference pain is probably going to be familiar to any of you who have ever read about how to recognize heart attack. People have heart attacks will sometimes have pain on one side of their body, the left arm. Sometimes people that have pain in a part of their back will suddenly also get pain in their shoulder or part of their face. This has to do with the fact that many of our nerves branch, and meaning they're collateralized to different organs and areas of the body. And the way those nerves are woven together, it's often the case that if we disrupt the pattern of firing of electrical activity in one of those nerve branches, that the other ones are affected too. The side stitch, the pain in your side, is often because of the contractions of the diaphragm, because of the way you're breathing while you're exercising, running or swimming or biking. And as a consequence, you feel pain in your side, but that's not a cramp. The way to relieve it is very simple. You do the physiological sigh that I've talked about in previous episodes of the podcast and elsewhere, which is a double inhale through the nose, very deep, and then a long exhale. And you might want to repeat that 2 or 3 times. Typically, that will relieve the side stitch because of the way that it changes the firing patterns of the phrenic nerve. So the side stitch is annoying, it's painful. Sometimes we think we're dehydrated, and you might be dehydrated, but oftentimes it's just that we're breathing in a way that causes some reference pain of the liver. We call it a side stitch or a side cramp, and you can relieve it very easily through the double inhale, long exhale. That pattern done 2 or 3 times. Often you can continue to engage in the exercise while you do the double inhale, exhale, and it will just relieve itself that way. So give it a try if you experience the side stitch. Some people I know are also doing the double inhale, long exhale during long continuous bouts of exercise. I actually do this when I run. We have decent data, although these are still unpublished data, that can engage a kind of regular cadence of heart rate variability. So there are a number of reasons why this physiological sigh can be useful, but it's certainly can be useful for relieving the side stitch or so-called side cramp. Let's talk about the acquisition of new skills. These could be skills such as golf swing or a tennis swing, or you're shooting free throws, or you're learning to dance, or you're learning an instrument. I'm mainly going to focus on athletic performance. There are basically 2 types of skills: open loop and closed loop. Open loop skills are skills where you perform some sort of motor action and then you wait and you get immediate feedback as to whether or not it was done correctly or not. A good example will be throwing darts at a dartboard. So if you throw the dart, you get feedback about whether or not you hit the bullseye and you're off the dartboard, or you're some other location on the dartboard. That's open loop. Closed loop would be something that's more continuous. So let's say you're a runner and you're starting to do some speed work and some sprints, and you're running and you can kind of feel whether or not you're running correctly, or maybe you even have a coach and they're correcting your stride, or you're trying to do some sort of skill like a hopscotch skill, which maybe you're doing the ladder work where you're stepping between designated spaces on the ground. That's closed loop, because as you go, you can adjust your behavior and you can adjust the distance of your steps, or you can adjust your speed, or you can adjust your posture, and you are able to essentially do more practice per unit time, but you're getting feedback on a moment-to-moment basis. Okay, so you have open loop and closed loop, and just to make this very, very clear, open loop would be practicing your tennis serve. So let's say that you set a target on the other side of the net, you throw the ball up, and you hit the ball, it goes over. That's open loop. You'll know whether or not you were in the court, you were on the location you wanted to hit, or close to it, or not. That's open loop. Closed loop would be if you're in a regular cadence. So maybe you're learning a swim stroke, or maybe you're trying to learn a particular rhythm on the drum. So maybe you're trying to learn a particular beat. I'm not very musical, so I'm not going to embarrass myself by giving an example of this, although later I will, where you're trying to get a particular rhythm down, and if you're not getting it, you can adjust in real time and try and catch up or slow down or speed up, etc. Okay, so hopefully you'll understand open loop and closed loop. You should always know before you try and learn a skill whether or not it's open loop or closed loop. And I'll return to why that's important shortly. But if you want to learn something, ask, is it open loop or closed loop? There are essentially three components of any skill that involves motor movement. And those are sensory perception, actually perceiving what you are doing and what's happening around you. So what you see, what you hear. Sometimes you're paying attention to what you're doing specifically, like the trajectory of your arm or how you're moving your feet if you're learning to dance. Sometimes you're more focused on something that's happening outside of you, like you're listening for something in music, or you're paying attention to the way your partner is moving, etc. So there's sensory input. Then there are the actual movements. Okay, so there are the movements of your limbs and body. And then there's something called proprioception. And proprioception is often discussed as kind of a sixth sense of knowing where your limbs are in relation to your body. So proprioception is vitally important. If I reach down and pick up this pen and pick it up, I'm not thinking about where the pen in my hand is relative to my body, but proprioceptively, I'm aware of it at kind of a sixth sense, deeper subconscious level. I can also make myself aware of where my limbs are. And typically when we learn, we are placing more focus on proprioception than we do ordinarily. So if I get up from this chair and I happen to walk out of the room, I don't think about where my feet are landing relative to one another. But if my leg had fallen asleep because I had been leaning on one of the nerves of my leg or something like that, and my leg feels all tingly or numb, I and you, if this were to happen to you, would immediately notice a shift in gait. It would feel strange. I'd have to pay attention to how I'm stepping, and the reason is I'm not getting any proprioceptive feedback. Now, skill learning has a lot of other dimensions too, but those are the main ones that we're going to focus on. So just to remind you, you need to know open loop or closed loop, and you need to know whether or not, you need to know that there's sensory perception, what you're paying attention to, movements themselves, and proprioception. And there's one other important thing that you need to know, which is that movement of any kind is generated from 1, 2, or 3 sources within your nervous system, within your brain and body. These are central pattern generators, which are sometimes called CPGSs. CSPGs are something entirely different in biology. CPGSs, this just goes to show that I have a module. CSPGs are chondroitin sulfate proteoglycans. They have nothing to do with this topic. CPGSs are central pattern generators, or CPGs they're sometimes called. These CPGs are in your spinal cord, mine and yours, different ones, and they generate repetitive movements. So if you're walking, if you're running, if you're cycling, if you're breathing, presumably you are, and you're doing that in a regular rhythmic cadence, central pattern generators are controlling that movement. After you learn how to walk, run, swim, cycle, do anything really, much of the work is handed off to these central pattern generators. And there were experiments that were done in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that actually looked at decerebrate animals and even decerebrate humans. These are humans and animals that lack a cerebral cortex. They lack much of the brain, and yet they can engage in what's called fictive movement. So it sounds like a kind of barbaric experiment. I'm glad I wasn't the one to have to do them, but this is the stuff of neuroscience textbooks, that cats or dogs or mice that have their neocortex removed, put them on a treadmill, they'll walk just fine. And they will adjust their speed of walking just fine, even though they basically lack all their thinking, decision-making brain. And it turns out humans that have, unfortunately, massive strokes to their cortex and lack any neocortex, but preserve these central pattern generators, will also walk just fine, even though they lack any of the other stuff in the brain. So these CPGs or CPGSs are amazing, and they control a lot of our already learned behavior. When you're really good at something, CPGs are controlling a lot of that behavior. That's true also for a golf swing, even if it's not really repetitive. Somebody who's really good at golf, it's gonna, I guess you call it a tee. You put the ball on the tee. I show my knowledge of golf. I've only done mini golf, frankly, but someday maybe I'll learn how to golf. But you set the golf ball down and swing. Set the golf ball down, swing. central pattern generators are going to handle a lot of that. If I were to go to the golf course, if I were to go out there, put a ball on the tee, my central pattern generators would not be involved in that at all. The moment I get, bringing the club back to swing, it's going to engage other things. And the other things it's going to engage, because I don't know that behavior now or then, is upper motor neurons. We have motor neurons in our cortex, in our neocortex, that control deliberate action. And those are the ones that you're engaging when you are learning. Those are the ones that you have to pay attention in order to engage. And that's what's happening. For instance, if I decide I'm going to reach down and pick up my pen, which I rarely think about, but now I'm thinking about it, and I'm going to do this in a very deliberate way. I'm going to grab with these two fingers and lift. My upper motor neurons are now involved. Okay, so upper motor neurons are very important, because a little bit later in the episode, when we talk about how to use visualization in order to accelerate skill learning, it's going to leverage these upper motor neurons in very particular ways. Okay, so we have CPGs for rhythmic movement, upper motor neurons for deliberate, unlearned movements or movements that we are in the process of learning. And then we have what are called lower motor neurons. Lower motor neurons are the ones in our spinal cord that send little wires out to our muscles, which actually cause the firing of those muscle fibers. Okay? So the way to think about this is you've got upper motor neurons, which talk to CPGs and to lower motor neurons. So it's really simple. And now you know most everything there is to know about the neural pathways controlling movement, at least for sake of this discussion. So anytime we learn something, we have to decide what to place our sensory perception on, meaning what are we going to focus on? That's critical. If you're listening to this and you're the type of person who likes taking notes, this should be the second question you ask. Remember, the first question is it open loop or closed loop? The second question should be, what should I focus my attention on? Auditory attention, visual attention, or proprioception. Should I focus on where my limbs are relative to my body, or should I focus on the outcome? Okay, this is a critical distinction. You can decide to learn how to do a golf swing, or learn how to shoot free throws, or learn how to dance tango, and decide that you are going to focus on the movements of your partner or the positions of your feet. Maybe you're going to look at them. Maybe you're going to sense them. You're going to actually feel where they are. Or maybe you're going to sense the position and posture of your body, which is more proprioceptive. Okay, so you have to allocate your attention, and I'm going to tell you how to allocate your attention best in order to learn faster. These are the sorts of decisions that you have to make. Fortunately for you, you don't have to think about whether or not you're going to use your upper motor neurons and your lower motor neurons or not, because if you don't know how to do something, you're automatically going to engage your upper motor neurons. And if you do, then you're not going to use your upper motor neurons. You're mainly going to rely on central pattern generators. You are always using your lower motor neurons to move muscle. So we can really simplify things now. I've given you a lot of information, but we can simplify it. Basically, open loop or closed loop, that's one question, and what am I going to focus on? And then your neurology will take care of the rest. So now I want to talk about realistic expectations. Somewhere in Hollywood, presumably, it got embedded in somebody's mind that instant skill acquisition was possible. That you could take a particular pill, or you could touch a particular object, or you could have a wand wave over you and you would suddenly have skill. And so that is the result of Hollywood et al. It doesn't exist, at least not in reality. And I love movies, but it simply doesn't exist. Then the self-help literature created another rule called the 10,000 hours. And frankly, that doesn't really match the literature, at least the scientific literature, either. I like it because it implies that learning takes time, which is more accurate than the Hollywood et al. Instant skill acquisition rule, which isn't really a rule, it's a myth. But the 10,000 hours rule overlooks something crucial, which is that it's not about hours, it's about repetitions. Now, of course, there's a relationship between time and repetitions, but there are some beautiful experiments that point to the fact that by simple adjustment of what you are focused on as you attempt to learn a new skill, You can adjust the number of repetitions that you do. You adjust your motivation for learning, and you can vastly accelerate learning. Some of you may recognize this by its internet name, which is not a scientific term, which is the Super Mario effect. There's actually a quite good video on YouTube describing the Super Mario effect. I think it was a YouTuber who has, I think, a background in science. And he did an interesting experiment. And I'll talk about his experiment first, and then I will talk about the neurobiology that supports the result that he got. The Super Mario effect relates to the game Super Mario Brothers, but you'll see why at the end. But basically what they did was they had 50,000 subjects, which is an enormous number of subjects, learn a program, essentially taking words from a computer program or commands for a computer program that were kind of clustered in a column on the right. So these are the sorts of things that computer programmers will be familiar with, but other people won't. And those commands are essentially translate to things like, go forward, and then if it's a right-hand turn in the maze, then go right, and continue until you hit a choice point, etc. So it's a bunch of instructions, but the job of the subjects in these experiments were to organize those instructions in a particular way that would allow a little cursor to move through the maze successfully. Okay? So basically the goal was, or at least what the subjects were told, is that anyone can learn to computer program, and if somebody can just organize the instructions in the right way, then they can program this little cursor to move through a maze. Very simple. And yet, if you don't have any background in computer programming, or even if you do, it takes some skill. You have to know what commands to give in what particular order, and they made that very easy. You just assemble them in a list over on the right. So people started doing this. Now, there were two groups, and one half of the subjects, if they got it wrong, meaning they entered a command and the cursor would move, and it was the wrong command for this little cursor to move, they saw a signal jump up on their screen that said, "That did not work, please try again." That's it. If they put in the wrong command or it was in the wrong sequence, it would say, "That did not work, please try again." And then the subjects would reorganize the instructions, and then the cursor would continue. And if they got it wrong again, it would say, "That did not work, please try again." Okay? The other half of the subjects, if they got something wrong, were told, "You just lost 5 points. Please continue." So that's the only difference in the feedback that they got. Now, I have to confess, I would have predicted, based on my knowledge of dopamine circuitry and reward contingency and epinephrine and stress and motivated learning, and this other thing that we've been told in many, many books on behavioral economics and in self-help literature, which is that people will work much harder to prevent losing something than they will to gain something. That you hear all the time. And it turns out that that's not at all what happened. If they looked at the success rate of the subjects, what they found was that the subjects that were told, "That did not work, please try again," had a 68% success rate. 68% of them went on to successfully program this cursor moving. Whereas the ones that were told, "You lost 5 points," had a 52% success rate, which is a significant difference. But the source of the success or the lack of success is really interesting. The subjects that were told, "That did not work, please try again," tried many, many more times per unit time. In other words, they made more attempts at programming this thing to allow this cursor to move through the maze. Whereas the people that were told, "You lost 5 points," gave up earlier or gave up entirely. Okay, so let's just step back from this, because to me this was very surprising. It violates a lot of things that I had heard in the kind of popular culture or the self-help literature, that people will work much harder to avoid losing something than they will to gain something. And it didn't really fit with what I understood about reward contingencies and dopamine. But it did fit well with another set of experiments that I'm very familiar with from the neuroscience literature. And I'll give you the punchline first, and then we're going to take what these data mean and we're going to talk about a learning protocol that you can use that will allow you to learn skills faster by willingly participating in more repetitions of the skill learning. Meaning you will want to do more repetitions, even if you're getting it wrong some or most of the time. So the experiment that I want to tell you about is called the tube test. And this is generally done in mice, although it's sometimes been done in rats, and it has a lot of parallels to some things that you've probably seen and experienced even in human life, in regular life, maybe even in your life. So here's the experiment. You take 2 rats, you put them in a tube, or 2 mice, you put them in a tube. And mice and rats, they don't like to share the same tube. So what they'll do is they'll start pushing each other back and forth, back and forth. Sooner or later, one of the rats or mice pushes the other one out. The one that got pushed out is the loser. The one that gets the tube is the winner. Okay? Now you take the winner, you give it a new competitor, and what you find is that the mouse or rat that won previously has a much higher than chance probability of winning the second time. In other words, winning before leads to winning again. And the reverse is also true. If you take the loser and you put that loser in with another mouse, fresh mouse, new mouse, the loser typically will lose at much greater probability than chance. And this is not related to differences in strength or size or testosterone or any other of the things that might leap to mind as explanations for this, because those were all controlled for. Now, that result had been known about for decades, but 3 years ago, there was a paper published in the journal Science, a phenomenal journal, one of the 3 apex journals, that examined the brain area that's involved in this. Turns out it's a particular area of the frontal cortex, for those of you that want to know. And they did a simple experiment where the experimenters increased or decreased the activity of this brain area of the prefrontal cortex, the subregion of the prefrontal cortex. And what they found is if they stimulated this brain area, a mouse or rat, regardless of whether or not it had been a winner or loser before, became a winner every single time. And they showed that if they blocked the activity of this brain area, regardless of whether or not the mouse or rat had been a winner or a loser.
I look too late at my boost there.
And this translated to other scenarios, other competitive scenarios, where you put a bunch of mice or rats in a cool chamber. They'd have a little heat lamp in the corner, and mice like heat, and there was only enough space for one mouse to be under the heat. And the one that won in the tube test, or that had the brain area stimulated, always got the nice
I don't know why my TV is not working.
So what is this magic brain area? What is it doing? Well, the reason I'm bringing this up today, and the reason I'm bringing it up on the heels of the Super Mario effect, is that stimulation of this brain area had a very simple and very important effect, which was it led to more forward steps, more repetitions, more effort, but not in terms of sheer might and will, not digging deeper, just more repetitions per unit time. And the losers had fewer repetitions per unit time. So the Super Mario effect, this online experiment, and the tube test, which has been done by various labs again and again, point to a simple but very important rule, which is neither the 10,000 hours rule nor the magic wand Hollywood version, but rather the neurobiological explanation of learning a skill is you want to perform as many repetitions per unit time as you possibly can, at least when you're first trying to learn a skill. I want to repeat that. You want to perform as many repetitions as you possibly can, at least when you're first trying to learn a skill. Now that might sound like a duh, it's just more reps, but it's not so obvious. There's no reason why more repetitions should necessarily lead to faster learning, because you could also say, well, more repetitions, you can make more errors, and those errors would lead to poor performance, like misstepping a number of times. And in these cases, there's very little feedback, right? It's not like every time the rat pushes forward or moves back that it is sensing, oh, I'm winning, I'm losing, I'm winning, I'm losing on a micro level. It probably does that as it starts to push the other one out. The rat or mouse probably thinks, I'm winning, and as it's backing up, it probably thinks, I'm losing. As you play the game, the Super Mario game, you are told, nope, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work. Please try again. but the important thing is that the winners are always generating more repetitions per unit time. It's just a repeat of performance, even if there are errors. And that points to something vitally important, which is reps are important, but making error reps is also important. In fact, it might be the most important factor. So let's talk about errors and why those solve the
You must make mistakes,
of what
otherwise you don't learn.
Because as I said earlier, if you want to learn something, you need to know if it's open loop or closed loop, and you need to know what to focus on, where to place your perception. And that seems like a tough task, but errors will tell you exactly what to focus on. So let's talk about errors and why you leverage errors to accelerate skill learning. Okay, so we've established that performing the maximum number of repetitions per training session is going to be advantageous. And that might seem obvious, but there's a shadowy side to that, which is, well, why would I want to just repeat the same thing over and over again if I'm getting it wrong 90% of the time? And the reason is that the errors actually cue your nervous system to two things.
Just forfeit the leave, go queue in your own country or something, or get
and
internet.
the other is it opens the door or the window for neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain and nervous system's ability to change in response to experience, essentially to custom modify itself in order to perform anything better. We did an entire month on neuroplasticity, and I talked a little bit about errors and why they're important. Now we're going to make this very concrete and operationalize it, make it very actionable. There was a paper that was published in 2021 from Norman et al. This is a very important paper. It was published in the journal Neuron, which is a self-press journal, excellent journal. The title of the paper gives it away, essentially, which is Post-Error Recruitment of Frontal Sensory Cortical Projections Promotes Attention.
Please stop doing this.
Now,
AFK in 1v1.
What that says is that when
because
you
the
make
time
an error,
hasn't finished it.
it causes an activation of the brain areas that anchor your attention. Remember, we need perception, attention, which they're essentially the same thing. We need proprioception, and we need the upper and lower motor neurons to communicate in the proper ways. And this vital question is what to pay attention to. Errors tell your nervous system that something needs to change. So if you are performing a task or a skill, like you're learning how to dance and you're stepping on the other person's toes, or you're fumbling, or you're not getting it right, those errors are opening the possibility for plasticity. If you walk away at that point, you've made the exact wrong choice, okay? Unless the errors are somehow hazardous to your health or somebody else's well-being, you want to continue to engage at a high repetition rate. That's really where the learning is possible. Without errors, the brain is not in a position to change itself. Errors actually cue the frontal cortex networks, what we call top-down processing, and the neuromodulators, things like dopamine and acetylcholine and epinephrine, that will allow for plasticity. While the Super Mario experiment, the maze experiment, was only focused on generating errors, telling people that wasn't right, please try again, or that wasn't right, you lost 5 points. The key distinction is that the errors themselves cued people to the fact that they needed to change something. So if you're trying to learn a new skill and you're screwing up and you're making mistakes, the more mistakes you make, the more plastic your brain becomes, such that when you get it right, that correct pattern will be rewarded and consolidated. And you can trust that it will, because the performance of something correctly is associated with the release of this neuromodulator dopamine. Dopamine is involved in craving and motivation. It's involved in a lot of things, but it's also involved in learning. We will do an entire episode on dopamine and learning, but because some of you are probably wondering, this does not mean that just increasing your dopamine levels before learning will allow you to learn faster. In fact, increasing your dopamine levels before learning using pharmacology will actually reduce what's called the signal to noise. It will make these increases in dopamine that pop up in your brain that suddenly make you like, I got that one right. It will make those smaller relative to the background levels of dopamine, okay? You want a big spike in dopamine when you perform a motor pattern correctly, and you want to make lots of errors, many, many repetitions of errors, in order to get to that correct performance. Now, if you're like most people, you're going to do this in a way that's somewhat random. Meaning, let's say it's a tennis serve. I can't play tennis. I think I've probably played tennis twice. So if I throw the ball up in the air and hit it, I'm going to get it wrong and probably hit the net. Then I'm going to hit the net. Then I'll probably go too long, then I'll probably go over the fence. At some point, I like to think, I'll get it correct. The dopamine signal for that is going to be quite big. And I'll think, okay, what did I do there? I actually don't know. I wasn't paying attention. What I was paying attention to is whether or not the ball went to the correct location on the opposite side of the net. Remember, it's an open loop move, so I don't actually know what I did correctly. But your nervous system will take care of that, provided I, in this case, complete more and more and more repetitions. Now, if I were to just elevate my basal level of dopamine by taking, I don't know, 1,500 milligrams of L-tyrosine or something, that would be bad because the increase in dopamine would actually be much lower, right? We would say the delta is smaller, the signal to noise is smaller if my overall levels of dopamine are very, very high. So I'm actually going to learn less well. So for skill learning, motor skill learning, increasing your dopamine levels prior is not a good idea. It might help with motivation to get to the learning, but it's not going to improve the plasticity process itself, and it's likely to hinder it. And so that's very important. So these errors cue the brain that something was wrong, and they open up the possibility of what's sometimes called the framing. It frames what's important. And so I think this is a shift that we've heard about, growth mindset, which is the incredible discovery and theory and practice of my colleague Bill Dweck at Stanford. This is distinct from that, right? This isn't about a motivation to learn. This is about how you actually learn. So the key is designate a particular block of time that you are going to perform repetitions. So maybe that's 30 minutes, maybe that's an hour. Work for time, and then try and perform the maximum number of repetitions that you can do safely for you and others per unit. That's going to be the best way to approach learning for most sessions. I'll talk about other things there. But making errors is key. And this isn't a motivational speech. I'm not saying, oh, go make errors. Errors are good for you. You have to fail in order to win. No. You have to fail in order to open up the possibility of plasticity. But you have to fail many times within the same session. And those failures will cue your attention to the appropriate sensory events. Now, sometimes we're working with a coach. And so this is a shout out to all the coaches. Thank you for doing what you do. However, there needs to be, at least what the scientific literature say, there needs to be a period of each training session whereby the athlete or the person of any kind can simply pay attention to their errors without their attention being cued to something else. A really well-trained coach will say, oh, your elbow is swinging too high, or you're not gripping the racket in the appropriate way, etc. They can see things that the practitioner can't see, and of course that's vitally important. But the practitioner also needs to use this error recognition signal. They need to basically focus on something, and the errors are going to tell them what to focus on. So put simply, there needs to be a period of time in which it's just repetition after repetition after repetition. I think many people, including coaches, are afraid that bad habits would get in the brain. And while indeed that's possible, it's very important that these errors occur in order to cue the attentional systems and to open the door for plasticity. So if I'm told, look, I'm standing a little wide, I need to tighten up my stance a little bit, great. But then I need to generate many repetitions from that tightened stance. Okay, so if I'm constantly being cued from the outside about what I'm doing incorrectly, that's not going to be as efficient. Okay, so for some people, these learning sessions might be 10 minutes. For some people, it might be an hour. Whatever you can allocate, vary, professional athlete, etc. will vary. You want to get the maximum number of repetitions in, and you want to make errors. That's allowing for plasticity. So science points to the fact that there's a particular sequencing of learning sessions that will allow you to learn faster and to retain the skill learning. And it involves doing exactly as I just described, which is getting as many repetitions as you can in the learning session, paying attention to the errors that you make, and then the rewards that will be generated from the successful performance of a movement or the approximate successful performance. So maybe you get the golf swing better, but not perfect. So that's still going to be rewarded with this more chemical mechanism. And then after the session, you need to do something very specific, which is nothing. That's right. There are beautiful data describing neurons in our hippocampus, this area of our brain involved in the consolidation of new neurons. Those data point to the fact that in sleep, there's a replay of the sequence of neurons that were involved in certain behaviors the previous day, and sometimes the previous day before that. However, there are also data that show that after a skill learning session, any kind of motor movement, provided you're not bringing in a lot more additional new sensory stimuli, there's a replay of the motor sequence that you performed correctly, and there's an elimination of the motor sequences that you performed incorrectly, and they are run backward in time. Okay, so to be very clear about this, if I were to learn a new skill or navigate a new city, or let's just stay with the motor skill, let's say the free throw or a golf swing or a tennis serve, dance move, novice, so I'm still going to make a lot of errors, don't get it perfectly, and maybe I get a little bit better, where I perform it correctly 3 times out of 1,000. That sounds like something I might do, and there I'm probably being generous to myself. After I finish the training session, if I do nothing, I'm not focused on some additional learning, I'm not bringing a lot of sensory information in. If I just sit there and close my eyes for 5 to 10 minutes, even 1 minute, the brain starts to replay the motor sequence of the corresponding to the correct pattern of movement, but it plays that sequence backward. Why it plays it backward, we don't know. If I were to wait until sleep, or regardless, when I sleep later that night, the sequence will be replayed forwards in the proper sequence. Immediately afterward, it's played backward for reasons that are still unclear. But the replay of that sequence backwards appears to be important for the consolidation of the skill learning. Now, this is important because many people are finishing their jiu-jitsu class, or they're finishing their yoga class, or they're finishing their dance class, or they're finishing some skill learning, and then they're immediately devoting their attention to something else. You hear a lot about visualization, and we are going to talk about visualization. But in the kind of obsession with the idea that we can learn things just sitting there with our eyes closed without having to perform a movement, we've overlooked something perhaps even more important, or at least equally important, which is after skill learning, after putting effort into something, sitting quietly with the eyes closed for 1 to 5 to 10 minutes allows the brain to replay the sequence in a way that appears important for the more rapid consolidation of the motor sequence of the pattern and to accelerated learning. If you'd like to learn more about this, this is not work that I was involved in, I want to be very clear. There's an excellent paper that covers this and much more for those of you that really want to dive deep on this, and we will dive deeper in a moment. This is a review that was published in the journal Neuron, excellent journal. Many of the papers that I'm referring to were covered in this review, which is titled Neuroplasticity Subserving Motor Skill Learning by Dayan, D-A-Y-A-N, I hope I'm not butchering the pronunciation, and Cohen, by Leonard Cohen, but not the Leonard Cohen most of us are familiar with, the musician Leonard Cohen. Dayan and Cohen, Neuroplasticity Subserving Motor Skill Learning, and this was published in 2011, but there have been a number of updates, and the literature that I've described in other portions of today's episode come from the more recent literature, such as the more recent 2021 paper. Okay, so you have this basic learning session and then a period of time afterwards in which the brain can rehearse what it just did. We hear so much about mental rehearsal, and we always think about mental rehearsal as the thing you do before you train or instead of training. But this is rehearsal that's done afterward, where the brain is just automatically scripting through the sequence, and for some reason it's still not clear why this would be the case. It runs backward. Then in sleep, it runs forward, and certainly, absolutely, sleep and quality sleep of the appropriate duration, etc., is going to be important for learning of all kinds, including skill learning. We did an entire 4 episodes on sleep and how to get better at sleeping. Those were the episodes back in January, episodes essentially 1, 2, 3, and 4. and maybe even episode 5, I don't recall. But you can go there to find out all about how to get better at sleeping. Now, there are other training sessions involved, right? I'm not going to learn the perfect golf swing or the tennis serve or how to dance in one session. And I doubt you will either. So the question is when to come back and what to do when you come back to the training session. Now, first of all, this principle of errors cueing attention and opening the opportunity for plasticity, that's never going to change. That's going to be true for somebody who's hyper skilled, who's even, has mastery or even virtuosity in a given skill, right? Remember, when you're unskilled at something, uncertainty is very high. As you become more skilled, certainty goes up, right? Then eventually you achieve levels of mastery where certainty is very, very high about your ability to perform, yours, certainty, and that of other people. And then there's this fourth category of virtuosity, where somebody, maybe you, invites uncertainty back into the practice because only with that uncertainty can you express your full range of abilities, which you aren't even aware of until uncertainty comes into the picture, right? I happen to have the great privilege of being friends with Laird Hamilton, a big wave surfer who's phenomenal. I don't surf, certainly don't surf with Laird, but he and another guy that he surfs with, Luca Padua, these guys they're virtuosos at surfing. They don't just want the wave that they can master, they want uncertainty. They're at the point in their practice where when uncertainty shows up, like a wave that's either so big or is moving in a particular way that it brings an element of uncertainty for them about what they're going to do, that they recognize that as the opportunity to perform better than they would otherwise. Okay, so they're actually trying to eliminate uncertainty. At the beginning of learning any skill, and as we approach from uncertain to skilled to mastery, we want to reduce uncertainty. And that's really what the nervous system is doing. It's trying to eliminate errors and hone in on the correct trajectories. If you perform a lot of repetitions and then you use a period immediately after, we don't really have a name for this, maybe someone will come up with it and put it in the comments section if you're on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, a name for this post-learning kind of idle time for the brain. The brain isn't idle at all, it's actually scripting all these things in reverse that allow for deeper learning and more quick learning. But if we fill that time with other things, if we are focused on our phones or we're focused on learning something else, we're focusing on our performance, that's not going to serve us well. At least it's not going to serve the skill learning well. So please, if you're interested in more rapid skill learning, try introducing these sessions. They can be quite powerful. And then on subsequent sessions, presumably after a night's sleep, or maybe you're doing 2 sessions a day, although 2 sessions a day is going to be a lot for most people, unless you're a professional or a high-level athlete. The subsequent sessions are where you get to express the gains of the previous session, right? Where you get to perform well, presumably more often, even if it's just subtle. Sometimes there'll be a decrease in performance, but most often you're going to perform better on subsequent training sessions. And there is the opportunity to devote attention in very specific ways, right? Not just let the errors inform you where to place your attention, but rather to direct your perception to particular elements of the movement in order to accelerate learning further. Okay? So to be very clear, because I know many of you are interested in concrete protocols, it's not just that you would only let errors cue your attention on the first session. You might do that for 1 session or 5 sessions. It's going to depend. But once you're familiar with something and you're performing it well every once in a while, you're accomplishing it better every once in a while, then you can start to cue your attention in very deliberate ways. And the question therefore becomes what to cue your attention to.
Double, almost.
The good news is, it doesn't matter.
Hooray.
There is a beautiful set of experiments that have been done looking at sequences of keys being played on a piano. This is work that was published just a couple years ago. There are actually several papers now that are focused on this. One of them was published in 2018. This is from Claudia Lappe and colleagues, L-A-P-P-E. She's done some really nice work, which talks about the influence of pitch feedback on learning of motor timing and sequencing. And this was done with piano, but it carries over to athletic performance as well. So I'm going to describe this study to you. But before I describe it, what is so interesting about this study that I want you to know about is that it turns out it doesn't matter so much what you pay attention to during the learning sequence, provided it's something related to the motor behavior that you're performing. Right? That seems incredible, right? I'm not good at a tennis serve. So if I've done, let's say 1,000 repetitions of the tennis serve, maybe I got it right 3 to 10 times. Now I'm being even more generous with myself, and I do this post-training session where I let my brain idle and I get some good sleep and I come back, and now I start generating errors again, presumably or hopefully fewer errors. But I decide I'm going to cue my attention to something very specific, like maybe how tightly I'm holding the racket, or maybe it's my stance, or maybe it's whether or not I rotate my right shoulder in as I hit the ball across the net. I'm making this up again. I don't play tennis. Turns out that as long as it's the same thing throughout the session, learning is accelerated. And I'll explain why this makes sense in a moment. But just to be really clear, you can and one should use your powers of attention to direct your attention to particular aspects of a motor movement once you're familiar with the general theme of the movement. But what you pay attention to exactly is not important. What's important is that you pay attention to one specific thing. So what Claudia Lappe and colleagues showed was that if people are trying to learn a sequence of keys on the piano, there are multiple forms of feedback. There are error signals if, for instance, they hear a piece of music and then they're told to press the keys in a particular sequence, and the noise that comes out, the sound that comes out of the piano, does not sound like the song they just heard, right? So instead of, and here, forgive me because I'm neither musical nor can I sing, but instead of dun 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 dun, they hear that dun 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 dun, and then instead when they play, for me it would sound something like dun, 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 it wouldn't sound right. Okay, it wouldn't sound right because I likely got the sequence wrong, or I was pressing too hard on the keys or too lightly on the keys, etc. What they showed was, if they just instruct people about the correct sequence to press on the keys, it actually doesn't matter what sound comes back, provided it's the correct sound or it's the same sound. All right, so here's the experiment. They had people press on these keys, and it was a typical piano, and it generated the particular sequence of sounds that would be generated by pressing the keys on the piano. Or they modified the keyboard, in this case the piano, such that when people pressed on the keys, a random tone, different tones were played each time they pressed on the keys. So it sounded crazy, it sounded like noise. But the motor sequence was the same. Or they had a single tone that was played every time they pressed the key. And the job or the task of the subject was just to press the sequence, press the keys in the proper sequence. So instead of dun 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 dun, it was just dun 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 dun. Instead of dun 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 dun, it's dun 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 dun. It's even hard for me to say it's even tone, but you get the idea. So a singular tone. Just think a doorbell being rung with each press of the key. It would be really annoying. Okay? But it turns out that the rate to motor learning was the same, whether or not they were getting feedback that was accurate to the keys of the piano or whether or not it was a constant tone. Performance was terrible, and the rates of learning were terrible if they were getting random tones back. So what this means is that learning to play the piano, at least at these early stages, is really just about generating the motor commands. It's not about paying attention to the sound that's coming out of the piano. And this makes sense because when we are beginners, we are trying to focus our attention on the things that we can control. And if you think about this, if you conceptualize this, pressing the keys on the piano and paying attention to the sounds that are coming out are two things. So what this means is that as you get deeper and deeper into a practice, focusing purely on the motor execution can be beneficial. Now, this is going to be harder to do with open loop type things where you're getting feedback. I guess a good example of open loop would be the attempt at a backflip, right? If you get it wrong, you will immediately know. Get it right, you'll immediately know. Please don't go out and try and do a backflip on the solid ground or even on a trampoline if you don't know what you're doing, because very likely you'll get it wrong and you'll get injured. But if it's something that is closed loop where you can repeat again and again and again and again, that is advantageous because you can perform many, many repetitions, and you can start to focus or learn to focus your attention just on the pattern of movement. In other words, you can learn to play the piano just as fast or maybe even faster by just focusing on the sequence that you are moving your digits, your fingers, and not the feedback. Now, I'm sure there are music teachers out there and piano teachers that are screaming, no, you're going to ruin the practice that all of us have embedded in our minds and in our students. And I agree. At some point, you need to start including feedback about whether or not things sound correct. But one of the beauties of skill learning is that you can choose to parameterize it, meaning you can choose to just focus on the motor sequence or just focus on the sounds that are coming back and then integrate those. And so we hear a lot about chunking, about breaking things down into their component parts. But one of the biggest challenges for skill learning is knowing where to place your attention. So to dial out again, we're building a protocol across this episode. Early sessions, maybe it's the first one, maybe it's the first 10, maybe it's the first 100. It depends on how many repetitions you're packing in. But during those initial sessions, the key is to make many errors, to let the reward process govern the plasticity, let the errors open the plasticity.
No ways,
and
man.
then after the learning sessions, to let the brain go idle, at least for a short period of time, and of course to maximize sleep. As you start incorporating more sessions, you start to gain some skill level. Learning to harness and focus your attention on particular features of the movement, independent of the rewards and the feedback, right? So the reward is no longer in the tone coming from the piano or whether or not you struck the target correctly, but simply the motor movement, focusing your, for instance, in a dart throw on the action of your arm. That is embedding the plasticity in the motor pattern most deeply. That's what's been shown by the scientific literature. I'm sure there are coaches and teachers out there that will entirely disagree with me, and that's great. Please, let me know what you prefer. Let me know where you think this is wrong. And it rarely happens, but let me know where you think this might be right as well. So we're breaking the learning process down into its component parts. As we get more and more skilled, meaning as we make fewer and fewer errors per a given session, per unit time, that's when attention can start to migrate from one feature, such as the motor sequence, to another feature, which is perhaps one's stance, and another sequence component of the sequence, which would be the result that's one getting on a trial-to-trial basis, right? So changing it up each time. So maybe I serve the tennis ball and I'm focusing on where the ball lands, and then I'm focusing on the speed, then I'm focusing on my grip, then I'm focusing on my stance, from trial to trial. But until we've mastered the core motor movements, which is done session to session, that, at least according to the literature that I have access to here, seems to be suboptimal. So hopefully this is starting to make sense, which is that these connections between upper motor neurons, lower motor neurons, and central pattern generators, you can't attack them all at once. You can't try and change them all at once. And so what we're doing is we're breaking things down into their component parts. Some of you may be wondering about speed of movement. There are some data, meaning some decent papers out there, showing that ultra slow movements, performing a movement essentially in slow motion, can be beneficial for enhancing the rate of skill learning. However, at least from my read of the literature, it appears that ultra slow movements should be performed after some degree of proficiency has already been gained in that particular movement. Now, that's not the way I would have thought about it. I would have thought, well, if you're learning how to do a proper kick or a punch in martial arts or something, that ultra slow movements at first are going to be the way that one can, best learn how to perform a movement. And then you just gradually increase the speed. And it turns out that's not the case. And I probably should have known that. And you should probably know that, because it turns out that when you do ultra slow movements, two things aren't available to you. One,
okay, so this guy's not gold 3 or a plat 1, really?
Because fast movements of limbs are very different than slow movements of limbs. So you don't get the opportunity to build in the proprioceptive feedback. But the other reason why it doesn't work is that it's too accurate. You don't generate errors. And so The data that I was able to find showed that very slow movements can be beneficial if one is already proficient in a practice, but very slow movements at the beginning don't allow you to
I'm
learn
hitting the
more
ball,
quickly,
but it's not
because you
going
never
in that
generate
direction.
errors, and therefore the brain doesn't, it's not open for change. The window for plasticity is never swung open, so to speak. So brings us back to this theme that errors allow for plasticity, correct performance of movements or semi-correct performance of movement, cues the synapses in the brain areas and spinal circuits that need to change, and then those changes occur in the period immediately after skill learning and in sleep.
What?
So super slow movements can be beneficial once you already have some proficiency. So this might be standing in your living room and just in ultra slow motion performing your tennis serve, learning to or thinking about how you're adjusting your elbow and your arm and the trajectory exactly how you were taught by your tennis coach. But trying to learn it that way from the outset does not appear to be the best way to learn a skill. When should you start to introduce slow learning? Well,
That's right.
obviously talk to your coaches about this. But
Just wait,
if you're doing this recreationally or you don't have a coach, I realize many of you don't have a coach.
But
And the super slow movements are probably not going to benefit you that much. Also, super slow movements are not really applicable to a lot of things. For instance, you could imagine throwing a dart super slow motion, but if you actually try and throw an actual dart, the dart's just going to fall to the floor, obviously. So there are a number of things like, baseball bat swing, which you can practice in super slow motion, but if you try and do that with an actual baseball or softball or something like that, it's not going to give you any kind of feedback about how effective it was. So super slow movements or a decelerated movement has its place, but once you're already performing things reasonably well, like maybe 25 to 30% success rate. And I've tried this. I struggle with basketball for whatever reason, and my free throw is terrible. So I've practiced free throws in super slow motion, and I nail them every time. The problem is there's no ball. Some of you already have a fair degree of proficiency, skill in a given practice, sport, instrument. And if you're in the sort of advanced intermediate or advanced levels of proficiency for something, there is a practice that you can find interesting data for in the literature, which involves metronoming. So this, you'll realize, relates to generating repetitions, and it relates to the tone experiment, where it doesn't really matter what your attention is cued to as long as you are performing many reps of the motor sequence.
It's lovely. I get a
You can use a metronome, and obviously musicians do this, but athletes can do this too. You can use a metronome to set the cadence of your repetitions. Now, for swimmers, there's actually a device I was able to find online. I forget what the brand name was, and that's not what this is about, but that actually goes in the swim cap that can cue you to when you need to perform another stroke. And for runners, there are other metronome type devices that through headphones or through a tone in the room, if you're running indoors or on a treadmill, will cue you to when you need to lift your heels. And if you do that, what athletes find is they can perform more repetitions, they can generate more output, they can increase speed. A number of really interesting things are being done with auditory metronoming. And then I'm involved in a little bit of work now that hopefully I'll be able to report back to you about using stroboscopic metronoming, so actually changing the speed of the visual environment. These are fun experiments, basically changing one's perception of how fast they're moving through space by playing with the visual system. Something for a future discussion. But you can start to use auditory metronoming for generating more movements per unit time and generating more errors and therefore more successes and more neuroplasticity. There are a number of different apps out there. I found several free apps where you can set in a metronome pace, so it might be tick, 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 tick. That's a little fast for most things, but you can imagine if this were darts or this were golf swings, that it might be tick, 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 or something more like tick, tick. And every time the metronome goes, you swing. Every time the metronome goes, you throw a dart. There are actually some wild experiments out there. There's a world championship of cup stacking. There's a young lady who I saw could take all these cups spread out on a table and basically just stack them into the perfect pyramid in the least amount of times. All the kids go wild. This is something I've never thought to pursue and frankly never will pursue. unless my life depends on it for some reason, but it's really impressive. And if you look at the sequence, because these have been recorded, you can look this up on YouTube, what you'll find is that these expert cup stackers, it's just all about error elimination. But there too, metronoming and auditory cues can actually cue them to pick up the cups faster than they would ordinarily and to learn to do that. You can do this for anything. I think cup stacking is probably not a skill most of you are interested in doing, but for any skill, if you figure out at what rate you are performing repetitions per unit time and you want to increase that slightly, you set a metronome which is slightly faster than your current rate, and you just start generating more repetitions. Now what's interesting about this and is cool is it relates back to the experiment from...
What's up, man? I'm just in a match.
Okay. Yeah, same. Oh, snap. Yo! Oh my goodness, I didn't say that.
You are too good, man.
Excuse me?
I say you are too good.
I'm somehow not even getting close to diamond.
Same here, but you definitely have mechanics.
Yep. By the way, I can flipper set. Well, I'm still learning flipper set.
Right. I think earlier I've done 2 air dribbles in my life. One was a goal, I think, but I don't know if it was an air dribble, but the one was a rank match 1v1. I owned gold. The air dribble.
Oh.
Because
Yeah,
the guy against me stopped playing and I was just like doing free play until he leaves. And then I had a perfect setup and it was towards my own goal. But I just carried on doing it. But so yeah, I can't even really air dribble.
My air dribbles are like mastered.
Nice. Nice. And you are controller.
Yep, controlling.
Oh, this is close. I can't be using now, but I'm too far ahead. Okay, it's fine.
It's 4-3 in my match right now for me.
2 minutes, well, 3 minutes. 3-2.
Oh snap. Yeah, I made a mistake. 4-4. No, okay, just right. Just to give him my cables. Thank you. Dank u, Nana.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Oh no,
shit. Oh, yes, with him.
5-4 for him.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing your placements, I saw, so you probably got a real more difficult guy than me. I was on my way to platinum once.
Yes, 5-5.
I just did a midfield weird pop on the touch, dribble catch. Oh, I
Yep.
should do that. Let's keep him this goal. Oh, he's a season 13 tournament winner, plat.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, I don't have a gold. My ping is too bad, or the teammates that I get is too bad, or I'm too bad, I'm really bad.
I had it. I'm plat doing doubles.
I think I'm back on plat. Twos. I've been diamond in season 10,
Oh, nice.
but never again. All my teammates, I play with everybody that's plat. There's 2 of them as champs. So it's always like these difficult lobbies, and if I play alone and then you play these gold people again,
Yep.
it's like, oh my goodness, this is like completely different.
Yep.
Then I have
It's
to
now
play,
5-5.
then I have to play against with them again, and then it's like, oh my goodness, now I have to like change up everything again. But yeah, I get unfortunate D ranks every now and again because I play with somebody for too long. Or when I'm bad, I play too long, or I play 1 or 2 games losing and never get back to MMR. Next time it happens again, then just end up going down. But I've made peace of it. Also, I don't think I sleep enough.
No, I made a. Oh no. Oh, that's GG's. 45 seconds, 6-5 for him. Well, I can still win.
No, that's still time.
Yep.
Sounds like it's a quick scoring match.
Yeah. I'm making a lot of mistakes now, that's why.
I'm luckily still in the lead, 50 seconds. Oh, now he's gonna score.
Come on,
That's
please.
alright.
No, what they send that up? No, he saved that. I missed it. That's another mistake. I missed it. Please say it doesn't score.
Ah, it's nice. Did you miss?
Come on.
That's
10
also...
seconds left. Come on. Let's go. 7 seconds
Oh,
left.
well done.
Probably going overtime.
Well, I hope so, for you. Or, I mean, not all score, but I guess the time is finished now. I would prefer to not have overtime. Just keep the ball here, or maybe score again. Or he's going to score now. This, what luck is that? This game hates me.
Okay, overtime. Let's go.
Yeah, well, I hope now also I get overtime or win.
No, why did my car double jump? Like, I hate it when I like front flip, but then he doesn't front flip.
Yeah, tell me all about it. That's usually, oh, he said easy kickoff goal, are you kidding me? Oh, I've got so many controllers that I've broken or played too hard with. Not like I've thrown them against the wall or anything, but then I have to set the dodge zones and stuff because they're drifting. Or the...
Oh,
No, I just didn't even think. I was just giving it away. Oh wait, I've got a chance. I missed the kickoff goal. Well, I've got no boost. There's only one chance here, and I didn't like try even something realistic. I threw this game so hard now. I lost 2.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
Ah, such a bad. I should have focused. I was 5-3 ahead. I'm usually better on autopilot. If I'm talking nonsense, then I can play. Or distract myself. Anyway, I'm out. I thought I was in your party, or did it break up? I think it broke up. Another placement player, what the hell?
What happened?
I don't know. I guess either my connection disconnected or something.
Oh, bro, he has 11 saves. I have 13 saves.
I threw my game.
I got 32 shots. Oh, what a save!
Are you still in overtime? Wow.
No. Bro, come on, bro. This is so intense. I wish I could spectate each other.
Somebody also yesterday said that, like, if they join, then it's like, it'd be nice if you can actually watch the game while they wait.
I won!
Oh, nice. 2 games in a row. You won 2, I lost 2.
I won 6 games in a row so far.
Wow. Placements. You're a smurf, man.
Thank you.
I got quite tilted in our match.
Most of the people say I'm smurfing for my mechanics, but I'm not. Yeah. I'm just training very hard.
No, that's well done. We've got another guy that's in our club. Our club is all carry. A cry is the short abbreviation. All carry.
Yeah.
Because everybody must carry everybody. And okay, he's not in it yet. He's just like a regular visitor guest, I guess. We play a lot of private matches, like in the evening. A bunch of us.
Must we play competitive twos?
We can do, yeah. But I must actually change my card.
Good game against you, bro. That was a good game.
Not that one. This one. Okay. I would never have
You're
used
in
the wings, but it looks okay on this
Yeah.
preset.
Alright. Okay. Let's do this.
Well, it's also Octane hitbox, so it's pretty much the same as a Fennec. Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, you go. You go.
Okay, I'm used to left goes, but I'll go.
Yeah, I know.
You did nominate. Because that's not.
Yo, what the? That was a good shot from you, bro. We got the boost. Yeah, I don't have boost.
Me neither. And the guy take the front boost. I thought I was gonna grab that one. That's why I was playing slow.
Yeah, I'm still kind of getting used to it. Nice.
Demo. Oh, I couldn't get. I did get him. Nice.
Nice. Oh my goodness, what am I doing? Sorry, that's my fault. Okay.
Alright.
Like that for you?
Yeah, no, I lost the back. I was playing it safe. Nice.
Thanks.
I've got no frames. I don't know why I don't have any frames. It's struggling here at the... Okay, there it goes up, so maybe this is the first time map's loading.
Yeah.
No, it's going below again. Lower 100, but it's okay. Oh.
For you?
Oh, what a
close.
save! Maybe if I just didn't spin my car, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Nice, you probably thought I was intimidated. Threat. Oh, bad discovery, but I am coming.
Yo, I almost
Right,
scored
you
an own
won't
goal
get
there.
that. I'll take it, I don't.
I don't have boost.
Is this around the pass? Oh, close.
For you? Oh man, he intercepted my flick. That's not gonna do one. Okay.
Nice. Nice, pop.
There you go. 2-0. Just like that.
Just
I had
nice.
like 10 boosts right there. That's all boost I had.
No, you did the right pop,
Okay.
the right timing of the jump,
Yep.
angle touch. I do that like every now and again, but
Coming back.
it would be great to do it consistently. Oh, that guy get in there. Nice. I've got no boost. The game is glitching. It is kind of annoying.
For you? Maybe? Nope. That's him.
I had no boost. I shouldn't have been there, but I already crept up to there, and I'm like, oh wow, there's some pads here. I was gonna wait for them to defend it.
Yeah, I'm going left. Yes.
Go. Oh, I was gonna send it to left.
Bang!
Nice.
Okay, nice pass.
Yeah,
We dominated.
I just landed on the guy. He couldn't move. I couldn't move.
Yep. I'll go back right for boost.
Yeah, cool.
Back.
Okay, then I want to try a speed flip. I'll just do a safe kickoff. Oh, there we go. Oh.
Oh no, that's my fault. That's my fault, man.
Almost
Sorry.
had it. No worries. I would have.
Yeah, I just saw it.
I would have
When
tried
I
to.
hit it here.
I would have tried to save it forward, but I reversed too far. It was the wrong position. Oh, that's
Yeah.
close. My car was just backflipping.
I got it. But I hit it just wrong. I just hit it wrong. You
No,
go?
I'm not there. I'm
Yours?
trying to get there, but I
Unlucky.
tried to speed flip and I went past it.
I'll get this boost so if it shoots.
Okay, cool.
Oh, sorry, that was your boost.
Yeah, I was gonna try, but no worries. Oh, unlucky. Very lucky.
Oh my goodness. Oh!
That was close. But no boost. I'll just park here. Reversing
Where?
this.
I got his boost.
I'll go for mid boost. Nice.
I'm going for back left boost on here.
My friends went into the red there. That's bad. I don't know why that's happening.
Yeah.
Because in-game settings should be normal. Okay, wait, I can put this off, but...
I don't know, I just feel like I think my shots are good.
Yo, what shots? Oh, forfeit. Nice.
Oh, jeez.
You feel your what shots? Your boost shots? Well, you said just now your what shots?
I think my shots are good, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
For
well,
me, I think.
some of them are on target, and the other ones like the ones that you have some moves and stuff. But yeah, if you shoot on targets,
Yeah. I got it.
I mean, you had what? I don't think I had any goals there, so of course your shots are good.
There you go for mid boost. The boost. Oh, that was way harder than I expected. And I went way too fast. I bumped him. Nice.
Going front boost.
Boost.
I missed it. Oh, nice.
Thanks. When I see they're not in position, I just take the shot. Like they both were out of position.
So it's just like almost, I was close to a flick almost actually.
Yeah.
But nice bounce to the
There you go,
cut. Yeah, I'm gonna try and speed shot. I know how to recover them at least if I don't get them right or if I go skew. Oh,
Nice pass.
Sure, no problem.
We're good, we're good.
Yeah, luckily I've got some defense. It
Yeah.
hasn't shown yet, but I usually make these crazy saves. Oh, close.
Oh, I didn't know it was that close to the top. Oh, I would have hit it up so it hit crossbar. Yeah, that was close. Look, I could have saved that. I did not know it was that close. I could have hit it up. Not my bad.
Yeah, I see. It happens so quick, man.
Yep. Oh, that's a
A
horrible
lot of
kick
times
goal.
it's just go.
Yep. Nice. Maybe.
Oh, I missed it.
Unlucky.
Unlucky. I bumped the guy. No boost, one pad.
For you? Oh, unlucky. Sorry. My bad.
I
Oh,
was playing safe. I was just playing safe for the touches.
Yep.
So up and no boost.
Oh, I bumped. Nice.
Yeah, that could have been on target.
Unlucky. How would I miss that?
Yeah, I can definitely feel my friend is making my input slower, my controller feel slow. Got it? Okay, nice. Oh.
Yours? Oh, my bad.
Yeah, no, I was behind you. I was gonna take the ball, but then you did get it. And then
Yeah,
I was too
that's my bad.
close. I was too good. No, it's fine.
Nice.
Enough. No, I am just dropping here, taking that boost.
I got boost.
Ah,
Or
bad.
if they okay.
Nice.
I saw him. He double jumped instead of front flip on that. Yours?
Oh, fuck's sake. Oh, language,
Got
sorry.
That's okay. Oh my goodness,
I tried
that's a
to
good
demo.
shot.
Oh.
Yeah, unlucky. That's a good shot. I did not expect that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Oh, bro. Oh my goodness, that was so unexpected.
I figured he had to go.
Yep. I'll go back right boost. Sorry, I'm throwing a bit now.
Nah, that's alright. Not trying.
He gets the. No!
Oh, that's throwing a bit. That's okay. It happens.
Yeah. I was unpositioned. Ooh, I'm doing better now. Oh my goodness.
Alright, that's
That's
lots
horrible.
of time.
Yeah. Okay, now I have to focus again. I said this is nice.
Yeah, but I took past to him basically. close. Thanks.
Bang!
Is that just in? Yeah.
I saw they both went for it. I saw they both went for it. They double commit, and I see they
And
both
after you went up.
Oh.
That's so funny.
Yep.
That they.
Yeah.
It's funny
I
that
would've
both went
liked-
up. Like if you went up, you maybe made them go up, but they should have known like you don't go up if that guy's already up.
Yep.
At least
They
they know
know
that
when
now
to pass it.
because you don't miss either.
Yeah, I would have passed it like mid for you. Oh. I would have passed it like mid for you, but I saw they went up late. But I don't understand why.
I think it's just because you.
For you? Oh, what the? How is that even possible? Oh, sorry. Oh. Yours, maybe? We can get it. Oh, unlucky. Yeah. My bad.
No worries. That's also what I'm good at, scrumming. Rocks and malls. Oh, that was close. If he got it over me, there's trouble.
Alright, he's gonna like clear it onto me. Bang! Oh, bad shot. Nice. Okay, he's just gonna bang it to go. I'll do that. Nice.
Not just risky.
Oh, bro, they're double committing a lot.
Yeah, no, it
Coming
looks
back.
like it.
Nice.
Send it. Nice.
There you go.
Ah, I missed the boost. Close.
Oh!
Can't bump there.
I don't know how I
Yeah,
missed.
yeah, on your own. On here.
For you?
Oh, close.
Oh, but how did I hit it that soft? Oh,
Ah, it's this game. I always blame the game.
look. I hit it so soft. Oh. The first time I hit it that soft. Okay, well.
I know why my game's probably lagging. It's because I was running that bot program before this. And that probably took some RAM and resources. So when I launched the actual game,
Nice.
I'll actually need to get a goal for seconds.
Oh, how did I miss that? I'm doing so bad right now. Or they just doing very good. Got it? Nice. What a clearance.
That's always a thing also.
Oh! I thought he was gonna hit it. So I didn't get it.
Oh, I had no boost and I tried to play it around him somehow. I should have just taken it further. Oh, pinch would have been great.
Oh no, I don't have boost. Wait, I can still win this. If I just pump it like this. No, that's wrong.
Yes, I can do this, but I can't get it. No!
Unlucky. I'm sorry, this loss is not on me. This is on me.
No, no worries.
No one own goal, bro.
Of course, yeah. They lucky.
Talking about
we played
talking
for
about
them.
throwing. Yeah.
Do you play threes or not really?
No.
So, somebody sent me invite just now. Actually, I haven't played with him in a while. But actually, I also don't know if I can see him because his name or something changed him again. And the other thing is, I feel like if I should restart my computer or my game or something. Oh, there's Bubs as well. Who could Health Ripper be? Oh, he could be. XI.
I'm not gonna go for flipper shits mid game now, cause that'll not work out. Cause I'm still learning it. I want to go for normal eligibles that I know I can actually score.
Ach yeah, unless you can see like
Against you, I was just trying to do flipper shits.
against me. No, but I saw at some point. I was
Yeah,
like,
against you.
I kind of stopped playing because I checked like it's gonna be a bit of a struggle and it's way you were way more competitive than my previous guy.
Yep.
That's a bummer sometimes, like to change it up. Sometimes I would give you a go, like at least to make it difficult. And
I'm a mechanical player at the
then I
moment.
disconnected also. I was
Do you
gonna
think my mechanics is good for pad?
yeah, no, for sure. Well, I guess this is these days it looks like that, but yeah, no, that's like you've got like diamond. But well, I don't know, I haven't seen enough, but you shoot on target. You play. It seems like you play well. You rotate and to defend. You fast. So that's always number one. Fast and shooting on target.
Yep.
That's the two things.
Yeah.
That's the basics. Just shoot on target, and or if you can't shoot, I still do that often. I just sometimes send it in the direction of the goal, but it's not really a shot, and then it's just basically a pass to the goalie or the guy at the back. You shouldn't really do that actually. If you can't, if you know you're not going to be able to actually put a power shot or a banger in there, then you should rather like just try to soft touch it or keep it in the corner or whatever.
Yep.
But I sometimes still do that. But otherwise you must shoot the ball in the goal, and if you keep it out of the goal, and if you're fast.
Yep.
I can't.
I
can't wave dash and that stuff.
Yeah, I only like take shots if I see I might get it in, or if they like if they're not positioned well, if they like kind of that. Like, so I just take shots when I see they're not comfortable.
Yeah, awkward.
Yep. Why can't we go in a match? It continuously says joining.
It could be because my game is not open. I'm on a computer closing stuff to see if it will help.
Oh yeah, that's why it says not all players are connecting to game.
I see one of my champ teammate, party members is also online. He's a keyboard mouse player, but I've played some keyboard and mouse. It's still fast. He still moves and does things fast. You know, like in privates, he's like you can be prepared. He will challenge it, or you think you're clearing a ball and he will be in the way.
Yep. Wait, are you in the game now?
No. Yeah. I'm in the lobby. Let me go to free play then. Yeah, okay. Let's see. I was just thinking about it, going to free play and then it's joining. This is fake joining.
Oh.
But then I am gonna join the free play. There it goes. Okay.
What? Why can't we go in a match?
I had the 2v2 loading screen now, and now I'm in free play.
You want to like you have to see my normal eligibles, bro. I'm unstoppable when I do a normal one. If I just get the right.
Do you do like that all glued to the car, pushing the ball in circles? Pushing the ball in curves. Or do you do air roll, air dribble?
I do like a.
Or that carry on your nose, like it's stuck to your car, like glued.
Yeah, I do that mostly. Why it's continuously joining and then it just.
It could be. It's 5:30, so it's not load shedding.
Wait, I'm gonna leave the party and invite you again, okay?
Okay, in that case, let me just sort of restart my computer. It should be like 2 minutes or max.
Okay.
Also, I'm on stream. I was gonna type it to you earlier, so I'm on YouTube.
Oh wait, we're going in.
I'll wait.
No, that's not.
It's the same as my name. In-game name.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave. You restart so long.
Oh, I was just typing it.